Before the Jets were even known as the Jets, they walked into Denver wearing navy and gold and nearly blew a 16-point lead to a team dressed like an old couch. The American Football League is 13 weeks old here. Not 13 seasons, 13 weeks. Lamar Hunt's new league has 8 teams, split into an East and a West. There are no wild cards and no layered playoff bracket. Win your division and you go straight to the AFL Championship game. Everybody else goes home. The AFL has also brought in the 2-point conversion and landed a 5-year television deal with ABC because it knows it can't beat the NFL by quietly imitating it. It has to look faster, looser, and just a little bit dangerous. Does anybody yet know whether this thing is going to survive? Absolutely not. The players are full of men the NFL discarded, overlooked, or refused to use properly. The owners are losing money, stadiums are half empty, but the football itself is already establishing a personality. Throw it deep, take chances, and let the score get weird. New York comes in at 5-6 under Sammy Baugh. Yes, that Sammy Baugh. Slingin' Sammy is already one of the defining players in pro football history. He won 6 NFL passing titles. He also led the league as a punter and once led it in passing, punting, and interceptions in the same season. He'll become a charter member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1963. Now, he's coaching a team owned by broadcaster Harry Wismer and playing in the Polo Grounds under the name Titans. The name supposedly works because Titans, New York Titans, are bigger than Giants, New York Giants. That's the entire branding strategy. Is it stupid? Yeah, a little bit. But is it memorable? Well, we're still talking about it. So, the Titans began 4-2, then dropped 4 in a row. Houston beat them. Oakland got them by 1. The LA Chargers held them to 7. And Boston knocked them down to 4-6. New York finally stopped the slide on Thanksgiving by beating the Dallas Texans 41-35. So, the Titans arrive in Denver with a pulse again. Houston still controls the East, but New York hasn't been mathematically buried. Denver comes in 4-6-1, and its season has taken the opposite shape. The Broncos started 4-2. They even won the first regular season game in AFL history, 13-10 over the Boston Patriots. Then they stopped winning. 4 straight losses were followed by a 38-all tie with Buffalo, although Denver scored 24 points in the fourth quarter to rescue that tie. So which team do you trust here? The one that just ended a 4-game losing streak? Or the one that just produced a frantic comeback without actually winning? There is one future Hall of Fame player on the field, Don Maynard. Maynard was the first player to sign with the Titans, and in 1960, he'll catch 72 passes for 1,265 yards. Across from him is Art Powell, who somehow still isn't in Canton. Powell finishes with 69 catches, 1,167 yards, and an American Football League leading 14 touchdown receptions. Maynard and Powell become the first pair of teammates in pro football history to each clear 1,000 receiving yards in the same season. Think about that. This isn't a polished machine with Joe Namath standing behind center. This is Al Doro throwing to 2 receivers the established league didn't value enough. The new league is giving them room to show everybody what it missed. And Denver has its own version of that same story. Frank Tripucka, who was originally brought in to help coach, the quarterbacks looked so bad in the scrimmage that he put on a uniform, outplayed them, and became the starter. He'll finished the season leading the AFL with 3,038 passing yards. His main target, Lionel Taylor, another player who belongs in any serious conversation about overlooked stars. Taylor began his career with the Chicago Bears as a linebacker. Denver turned him into a receiver, and he catches 92 passes for 1,235 yards, despite joining the team after the season already started. A year later, he becomes the first professional player ever to catch 100 passes in one season. Denver also has Gene Mingo, a running back and return man who doubles as the first black place kicker in pro football history. He's not just a footnote either. Mingo leads the entire AFL in scoring this year with 123 points. The guy can score from just about anywhere. You can't discuss these Broncos without looking at them. Brown helmets, mustard jerseys, vertically striped socks. The uniforms were purchased secondhand from the defunct Copper Bowl College All-Star Game. That's how lean this operation is. Today, an NFL team spends years focus grouping the width of a sleeve stripe. Denver basically went into a dead football game's closet and said, "What do you got in 46 wide?" They're playing in Bears Stadium, a baseball park that won't be renamed Mile High Stadium until 1968. Only 5,861 people are there for this game. And that's the early AFL in one photograph. A future NFL institution wearing used socks, playing before a small crowd in a converted ballpark. Now, watch how quickly the game becomes worth preserving. New York hits first. Doro finds Powell for a 6-yard touchdown, and Bill Shockley adds the extra point. Then, defensive end Nick Mumley intercepts Tripucka, runs it back 26 yards for another score. That interception is the only one of Mumley's pro career. 1 pick, 1 touchdown. Perfect efficiency. The Titans lead 14-0 after 1 quarter, and Powell strikes again in the second. This one goes for 30 yards from Doro. New York, they're up 21-0, and Denver looks ready to disappear. And this is where the Broncos fold. Except they don't. Mingo scores from a yard out before halftime. It's 21-7. And in the third quarter, Tripucka finds Taylor for a 15-yard touchdown. Suddenly, it's 21-14. The little crowd in Bears Stadium has a game. What would you be thinking if you were in New York here? You are up 3 touchdowns. You're trying to keep a faint division title hope alive. And now, every possession feels heavier than it did 10 minutes ago. Shockley gives the Titans some breathing room with the 15-yard field goal. Then, Doro goes back to Powell near the goal line for a 3-yard touchdown. The extra point fails, but New York has rebuilt the lead to 30-14. Powell's now caught 3 touchdown passes. Maynard is the Hall of Famer, but this afternoon, Powell owns the end zone. But Denver still won't leave. Tripucka throws an 11-yard touchdown pass to Mingo. Mingo kicks the extra point himself. Because early AFL football, occasionally, feels like one man is playing 3 positions in your backyard. Then Tripucka finds Taylor from 8 yards out. The kick fails, and the score's 30-27. That's where it ends. New York survives by 3. Not a domination. They didn't close the door. They survived. The historically substantial piece isn't that this game decided the championship. It didn't. It's that nearly every important thread of the early AFL is packed inside it. You've got Baugh, one of the old NFL's greatest passers, coaching an upstart. You've got Maynard, becoming a Hall of Famer, while Powell produces the bigger day. You've got Taylor helping redefine how heavily a passing offense can feature one receiver. You got Mingo kicking, catching, and running in an era where black players were still being denied equal opportunities elsewhere. And you got Mumley turning the only interception of his entire career into 6 points. This is what a young league looks like before the history books sand off the rough edges. It's inventive because it has to be. It's unstable because nobody has enough depth. And it's entertaining because caution isn't going to sell tickets. The win moves New York to 6-6. And a week later, the Titans beat Oakland 31-28 behind 2 more Powell touchdown catches. That gets them to 7-6. They close against the Western champion Chargers and lose 50-43. They finish 7-7, second place in the East. And Houston wins the division at 10-4, because for some reason Houston's in the East. Go figure. The Oilers then beat Los Angeles 24-16 in the first AFL championship game, with Billy Cannon breaking an 88-yard touchdown reception in the fourth quarter. Denver never recovers. The Broncos lose 41-33 to the Chargers, then get crushed 48-10 by Oakland. So a season that started 4-2 ends 4-9-1. They finish last in the West and allow 393 points. But the record doesn't tell you everything, does it? Tripucka finishes with the AFL's highest passing yardage total. Taylor leads the league in catches, Mingo leads it in scoring, and Goose Gonsolin intercepts 11 passes. There's real pieces here. Denver simply doesn't yet have enough of them. New York is closer, but closer doesn't pay the bills. The Titans remain financially shaky, and Wismer eventually loses control of the team. In 1963, new ownership changes the name to the Jets. And 6 years after that, Maynard will help them win Super Bowl III and permanently validate the league that looked so temporary in 1960. But that's later. On December 4th, 1960, they're still the Titans. The Broncos are still brown and mustard. Nick Mumley has the ball in his hands, Art Powell owns the end zone, and 5,861 people are watching. 2 brand new teams create a history that they don't yet know will last this long. Thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.